Last time on D&D, The Arrival, Session 5, featuring Calliope Laurelleaf, the Halfling Bard, Ellie Jobel, the Gnome Ranger, Phelan, the High Elf Cleric, Talaran, the Wood Elf Ranger who was absent this session, Trogdor, the Dragonborn Barbarian, and Torpo, the Hill Dwarf Wizard. So last time, the party was on the way to go investigate this issue with a dryad, which was supposedly about to be sacrificed, and encountered a random encounter with some brigands. And one of my players asked, hey, do they have a map back to their fortress? And I said, you know what? Fine. Roll me a nat 20, and one of them has a stupid map to their fortress. Like, why do they need a map back to the fortress? I don't know, since they just left there. Should probably be well aware of how to get there and back, but let's just say one of them is really bad at directions, and if you roll nat 20, you find something that kind of leads to a map back to their fortress. Roll it for me. And sure enough, that dice went across the table, and when it stopped, it was on a natural 20. So, DMs never challenge your players to do something random if you're not ready for it, because that's exactly what happened. I had nothing prepared for any kind of brigand camp that the players might potentially go look into now. And sure enough, because they had low money, and they were like, well, if we go fight the brigands, we can get some money probably, and then just go back to town and buy horses and then ride to go see this dryad. So then and there, I had to essentially come up with this whole brigand hideout with no prep time whatsoever. Turned out to be a really fun encounter. They found the brigand fort that was basically inside of a hill, fought these brigands. The leader of the brigands had a gauntlet on and a magic sword that he drew, that when he drew the blade caught on fire. Very dramatic. But there were two chests inside this brigand hideout that they were unable to get into that seemed to be magically locked. So Phelan put on the gauntlet and thought maybe, like something in the gauntlet will unlock these two chests. And she tried it, didn't open the chest, so she tried to take off the gauntlet, and I said, that's funny. The gauntlet is no longer coming off. It is a cursed gauntlet that you can't seem to get off your hand. Trogdor, the Dragonborn Barbarian, took the magical sword, tried to attune to it, find out how to ignite it, but nothing he did seemed to allow the blade to ignite. So he sheathed the blade and said, I'll look into it later. The party had decided to camp in the brigand fort because they had taken some damage, and when they awoke the following morning, the blade was no longer sheathed in Trogdor's belt. It was mysteriously in the hand of Phelan, in her gauntlet hand. No one knows why, but everyone had a dream of Phelan holding up a sword that basically siphoned all the light from the sun. So everyone was like, well, that's not a good omen. And that's where we left off with that previous session. So in session 5, the party had rested in the bandit camp and decided to leave the two heavy chests that they could not open, that they would basically go purchase horses, go save the dryad, and then come back to this bandit camp if no one had taken these chests, and basically take these chests on horseback back to town and see if they can get them unlocked. The party then heads to the Ivory Vale, where they meet up with Torpo, who was not present in the last session. Torpo inquires with Ellie Jobel if she knows anything about a thieves guild in the area that might know something about a sword called the Giant Slayer, which she had heard about. Ellie separates from the party, finds the entrance to the thieves guild, knowing that there are two warring factions within the sewer of the Ivory Coast. There is one faction known as the Ravenclaws, which she belonged to, and then there was an opposing thieves guild here known as the Lion's Maw. Each owned a different side of the sewer system down below the city and frequently fought with one another, trying to gain power and riches over what was coming in and out of the Ivory Coast. Being the main port where all this new magic items were coming in and out of, having ownership of the Thieves Guild in this area was very, very beneficial. Ellie goes to her guild and purchases some poison to coat her weapons with. Phelan, in the meantime, goes to the Church of Florentin, which is the goddess of life, to inquire about the cursed gauntlet. That priest explains that appears to be some form of ancient magic attached to the gauntlet, and the priest summons a wizard by the name of Dezerin, who is a human wizard with red eyes and a long white beard. Very unusual looking. The wizard informs her that she would either need to have some form of ancient magic to unlock it, but that kind of magic really isn't known in this world. There's some indication that somewhere out in this area known as the Broken Lands, these kind of old relics are appearing with magic that's ancient that they've not seen before, so perhaps something there can be found. Or the Fae, who are not, native to this plane also use that form of ancient magic, and someone like a dryad may be able to help. This excites Phelan because she knows that they have a quest to go try to save a dryad. The party purchases some transportation, with Calliope purchasing a donkey, being a halfling. Ellie purchases a donkey and a mastiff. Phelan purchases a riding horse. Trogdor, due to his thick size, purchases a warhorse. And Torbo purchases a donkey. Talarin, who wasn't present at this time, doesn't purchase any horses, as he's just kind of scouting the area, having heard about some orcs that had made landfall to the south of Ivory Coast, so that's where he was, to basically explain why he was not present during the session. The party rides to the Jade Forest, knowing that there is a dryad there that Phelan wants to try to rescue and was told to rescue, and may be the key to getting this damn gauntlet off of her hand. As they arrive, they come across a scene where several fey creatures such as pixies and brownies lie dead all over the floor, and there are large 2-foot mushrooms around the bodies. Trogdor goes in to inspect these bodies and brushes up against one of the larger mushrooms, not really thinking anything of it, and it reveals that it's something known as a shrieker. These are mushrooms that, when brushed against, they essentially emit a loud, piercing screaming sound. Now, normally growing in the Underdark and weird dark places like that, it's very unusual that shriekers are growing on the surface. Torpo throws an insult to Trogdor for triggering them, causing him to fumble his weapon attack when he tries to destroy the shrieker that he's next to. What had actually happened is Trogdor rolled to hit the shrieker and did a crit fail, so at the same time, the player who's controlling Torpo had said she basically yells a couple insults that he's making too much noise. We said pretty much that the insult had caused him to be distracted, forcing him to miss. The party eventually destroys the shriekers and moves deeper into the woods, where they see several corpses of centaurs, with what appear to be humans kind of leering over them. Calliope uses stealth to get as close as she can to these humans, but what she discovers quickly, they have a weird odor and a weird look to them, and they are certainly not human. They were human at one time. But what these creatures are ghouls, and they're feeding on the centaur corpses. A fight quickly breaks out and the party successfully defeats the ghouls and moves on, going deeper and deeper into the forest. The party finds that all the leaves in the forest have fallen to the ground. The leaves from the forest treetops are bare, and the leaves themselves seem to be diseased or dying. As they press on further and further, it becomes clear that something has gone very, very wrong. Ellie spots a deer snagged in a trap and attempts to free it, and finds that it's actually an ambush by several gnolls who heard the shriekers and knew the party was coming. The party takes down the gnolls and continues through the forest. They finally reach the ancient tree, and what they find is horrifying. The dryad has been staked to the tree, just as Phelan had seen in her vision. A magnificent white horse has a gaping wound in its heart, and it becomes clear that this is not just a white horse, it is a unicorn that has had its horn ripped from its head and its heart pierced, and the soul siphoned from the unicorn through this dark ritual, creating a nightmare. A nightmare is a flying, flaming black horse of great evil. The angel who appeared in Phelan's dream appears, though everyone else only sees this odd shimmering light. And the angel tells her because she chose greed, going after the bandits and their money, over her holy mission, the dryad has been slain. And not only that, after being slain, which released the fallen angel, the unicorn of the woods, sensing the dryad's demise, had tried to save her, and the fallen angel captured the unicorn, pierced its heart with its own horn, turning it into a nightmare, and flew west. Now, with the dryad slain, Phelan had no way of removing this cursed gauntlet, which was only just the start of her problems. The party travels west to the Spire's Edge, which is a small town, but finds that the town is in poor shape. They speak to several people here and learn that the town had recently been attacked by a blue dragon and several kobolds. Now, this is a reference to another 5e game that I was running for a bunch of my friends in person. I had tried to basically run them through Hoard of the Dragon Queen, but moved it into basically my world. That game didn't last long for a couple of reasons. The Hoard of the Dragon Queen, I'm not going to spoil too much, but basically requires the party to be kind of stealthy when they reach a certain part in a castle. This party was not the stealthy type. They were killing left and right and basically made it very obvious that there were traitors inside this castle. So I had to quickly improvise and change a bunch of stuff. And two of the players both ended up getting married and pregnant. So that game just kind of came to an end. But As I said, I pretty much treat this as a living world, and Spire's Edge was the town in Hoard of the Dragon Queen that gets attacked at the very beginning of my world. So that's what this is a reference to. Anyway, the party then travels down to the Ivory Coast. There, Phelan meets with the wizard, Dezerin, who informs her that there are relics in the Broken Lands that could be useful in breaking the curse, and that should she find any, bring them to him and he will be glad to help her. There is more to Dezerin. Another player knows what Dezerin's secret is because they're working with Dezerin, but I don't want to spoil it in case any of my other players with this game listen. Alright, so while Phelan is there, the others venture into the Thieves Guild and go after the Lion's Maw to capture some of them who supposedly have information on the Giant Slayer blade that Torpo is interested in. They capture 3 of the members of the Lion's Maw and with some trouble bring them over to the Raven's Claw leader. Now unfortunately, this upsets the Ravenclaw leader because Ellie Jobel brought all of her companions into the Thieves Guild and basically showed where it was at. And he basically said, you know what, it's great that you got the Lion's Maw, we'll get the information you need, but we're going to have to send someone to wipe the memory of how to get here. We don't want outsiders knowing how to get here because they may, turn on us. They may give information to the Lion's Maw. They have to be loyal to us, and that's it. The party tries to explain that they will be completely loyal because Ellie Jobel is their friend, but the leader will not have it. Failed persuasion checks, essentially. They learn that the Giant Slayer has been traded to another guild and is headed west into the Broken Lands. A guild known as the Forgotten Sands has possession of it. Back on the surface, the party goes back to the church where they meet with Phelan, and that's when Dezerin approaches them and says a certain contact has told him to take care of something, and he wipes the memory of everyone who'd ventured down into Thieves Guild except for Ellie Jobel on how to get there. So they know that it's in the sewers, they just don't know basically how to get there, and that's where we ended with this session.